Iran just made a decision that could ignite the entire Middle East, and the clock to stop it is almost gone. Not since the Gulf War, not since the fall of Baghdad, not in the entire recorded history of modern American military doctrine has the United States assembled this kind of firepower, in one region, pointed at one target, at one specific moment in time. Right now, as you watch this, 50,000 American troops are positioned across bases surrounding Iran. Delta Force, the 82nd Airborne Division, carrier strike groups cutting through the Persian Gulf, hundreds of F-15s, F-35s, and B-1 Lancer bombers sitting hot on runways, and the USS George H.W. Bush, a Nimitz-class nuclear supercarrier carrying 90 aircraft alone, is holding station within striking distance of Iran's coast. Military analysts aren't calling this a deployment, they're calling it something far more serious. They're calling it operational. But here's the part that almost nobody is talking about, and it changes everything you think you know about this situation. The country issuing the loudest warning to Iran right now is not the United States. It is not Israel. It is Russia, Iran's own strategic partner. And what Moscow is saying behind closed doors is sending shockwaves through Tehran's command centers. Stay with me, because what Russia is actually doing here is far more calculated and far more dangerous than it appears. If you want to stay ahead of stories this media won't cover properly, subscribe right now. We break what matters before anyone else does. Russia has now issued not one, but two direct warnings to Tehran, the second one sharper than the first. And that escalation in Moscow's own language is the most telling detail in this entire crisis. Think about what that means. Russia, which has spent 2 years supplying Iran with satellite intelligence, drone technology, and diplomatic cover, is telling its own partner, "You are not taking this seriously enough. When your closest ally tells you to be afraid, you stop everything you are doing and you listen." So what exactly did Russian intelligence see between the first warning and the second that caused someone in the Kremlin to reach for stronger language? The answer to that question reveals something about Russia's true motives that should disturb every person watching this, because Moscow is not warning Iran out of friendship. Moscow is playing a game that has nothing to do with Iranian security and everything to do with Russian survival. We'll get to that. But first, the timeline. Quick note, if this kind of deep analysis is useful to you, hit subscribe. It takes 2 seconds, and it means you never miss a breakdown like this one. The ceasefire window has now closed. For 2 weeks, military operations were paused inside a fragile diplomatic framework. Washington described it as a window for Iran to comply, to permanently reopen the Strait of Hormuz and stand down what remains of its threat infrastructure. Tehran described it as proof that its resistance was forcing America to negotiate. Both of those framings cannot be true at the same time. And now, at the exact moment the ceasefire has expired, 50,000 troops are at peak operational readiness. Hundreds of aircraft are fueled and armed. The ceasefire didn't end, and then the buildup began. The buildup happened during the ceasefire, deliberately timed so that maximum force would be fully in place the moment diplomacy either succeeded or failed. The buildup is the ultimatum. The force posture is the message. And Iran's IRGC-linked communications have been responding to that message in a way that tells you everything about what Tehran actually understands about its position right now. IRGC messaging has been framing this American buildup internally as preparation for imminent intervention, not deterrence. And when a military organization begins preparing its own population for conflict, it is almost always doing one of two things. We need to talk about which one Iran is doing right now. Now. Russia's real game. This is the part that has received almost zero attention in mainstream coverage, and it is the most important geopolitical layer in this entire crisis. Russia is not warning Iran because Moscow cares about Iranian sovereignty. Russia is warning Iran because this conflict at its current temperature is one of the most valuable strategic assets Vladimir Putin possesses. Every day oil prices remain above $100 a barrel. The Russian treasury fills at a rate that directly offsets Western sanctions. Every day American military attention is consumed by a Middle East confrontation is a day those same resources, those same intelligence assets, those same political pressures are not being directed at Ukraine. The sweet spot for Russia is not resolution. It is not escalation. The sweet spot is sustained tension, a conflict burning just hot enough to keep oil prices elevated and American attention divided, but not so hot that the United States delivers a decisive military response that ends it entirely. So when Moscow tells Tehran that American troops are ready to act, Moscow may not be trying to protect Iran. Moscow may be trying to calibrate Iran, to prevent Tehran from escalating in a way that triggers the decisive American campaign that closes the conflict, lowers oil prices, and frees Washington's attention back toward Eastern Europe. That is the geopolitical chess being played beneath everything you are watching right now. If you're learning something here, subscribe, because this channel exists to give you the analysis that the major networks bury under headlines. So here is exactly where things stand, and here are the only 3 ways this ends. Outcome 1. Iran reads the military reality clearly. It recognizes that 85% of its integrated air defense network has been destroyed. It recognizes that its coastal missile infrastructure has been dismantled. It recognizes that the 7th Fleet controls the Strait of Hormuz, and it moves toward genuine compliance with American demands, reopening the strait, standing down its remaining threat infrastructure. The buildup achieves its purpose. Not a single additional shot is fired. Outcome 2. Iran miscalculates. It believes Russia's warnings give it political cover. It believes international reluctance to support American military action limits Washington's freedom to move. It holds its position. And it discovers that 50,000 troops, hundreds of aircraft, and multiple carrier strike groups were not deployed as a bluff. Outcome 3. Something in between. Partial compliance. Enough to pause military action without fully resolving the underlying competition, an outcome that leaves the fundamental tension intact and guarantees this confrontation resumes at a later date under conditions neither side controls. The risk of miscalculation here is not theoretical, it is structural. When forces of this scale are in close proximity, when electronic warfare has degraded communication channels, when each side is reading the other's intentions through its own distorted assumptions, the gap between deterrence and catastrophe becomes dangerously, terrifyingly narrow. Russia sees it. That is why Moscow is warning Tehran, not out of friendship, out of cold calculation. The only question that matters in the next 72 hours is this. Does Iran see it too? The ceasefire is over. The troops are ready. The jets are armed and on the runway. What happens next will echo for a generation, and if you want to understand every move as it happens, you need to be subscribed to this channel right now. Hit that button, drop your answer in the comments below. Which of these 3 outcomes do you think plays out? And share this with someone who needs to understand what is actually happening in the Middle East, because most people have no idea how close to the edge we already are.